Hi, welcome to Lion-Hearted Living Podcast. My name is Lacey. Along with me is my son Zion, my daughter Heavenly, and my husband Brad. We are a family that believes you can live an abundant life. We're here alongside you to inspire and uplift your day through stories of courage, inspiration, and health so you can love others, yourself, and take care of the blessings and gifts God has given you. Hi, welcome to Lazy Lion Brands episode. Today we are so excited that you are here. We have so many good things in store for you, and today we are going to be talking about a journey back to health and wellness. I am here with my wonderful husband, Brad. Now, Brad, many of you are getting a chance to know, but Brad is a nurse practitioner with 25 years of military experience under his belt, which he just retired this year. So Brad has a lot of things that he would like to share with us. And one of the most important things he wants to share with us is his journey back to health and wellness. And hi, Brad, how are you doing?
Good. How are you doing today, Lacey?
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Brad, we kind of want to get started, our listeners. We kind of want to know a little bit more of, before we get into your journey with health and wellness, we just kind of want to get to know you and more about your background.
Okay, so some of my background is I started off in the Army, was in active duty for 7 years as a Persian Farsi linguist. Salam, Tore. I did 4 years as a corpsman, active duty, and then I just finished in the reserves as a corpsman after 26 years. I retired in August. Some of my background, I got a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Seton Hill University. I got my Bachelor of Science in Nursing at Duquesne University, and then I completed my master's program in nurse practitioner from Chamberlain College of Nursing in 2019. Since then, I've had a couple jobs. One was in doing research for a nephrology practice, and then for the past 5 going on 6 years now, I work in vascular surgery.
It's very interesting, Brad. So, what does that mean to you?
Well, as a kid, I always knew I wanted to be in the medical field because I wanted to see people healthy and I wanted to see them thrive. I spent many times, not myself, not due to health issues, but due to family health issues and friends, family health issues, spent a lot of time in the ER. So I got to see a lot of people sick. I got to see what doctors and nurses and the whole team was doing to try to help people in their darkest times.
So, would you say that led to you having a desire to go into the medical field
Yeah, well,
because of those
yes,
experiences?
it was all those experiences in the health class in 7th grade. Just the interest in the human body and how magnificent the human body is and how intricate it is. I just wanted to know more about it. Wanted to know how it worked and wanted to help other people when something was going wrong.
Wow, that's very interesting, Brad. So you would say that what encouraged you to go into the military and to pursue more education into the medical? Is that what you would say? Encourage that?
Well, yes, because I knew I needed the self-discipline in order to accomplish the dreams and goals that I had. So that was why the Army. But I loved serving. I loved serving my country and loved serving other people. So it was a easy transition to move into the Coast Guard. And then I finally got to be in the medical field. And as soon as I got my first taste being a corpsman and actually getting to practice medicine, it just ignited a passion in me to continue to help people. But I knew in the civilian world that I needed to get a further education. So that propelled me on.
I see, I see. And now, what is it that you currently do today?
I work in vascular surgery. We deal with basically all the blood vessels, arteries, and veins that are all outside the heart and below the neck. So if a person has a blood clot that goes into their lungs, called a pulmonary embolism, we help to diagnose that, and then my surgeons treat that. If you have blood clots in your legs, we direct people on how to treat that. When people can no longer walk because they're starting to have hardening of their arteries and it's affecting not only their heart, but it affects their legs also. So life becomes almost like a prison.
I see. That's very interesting. And it seems like you have a heart to do so much for others. And what we want to talk about is your journey back to health. And I can understand a lot of times we get so caught up in doing what we're doing. A lot of times we put our own self on the back burner. I have an autistic child and I have to care for him at times, and my attention and my devotion goes to him a lot of times, and then, I ended up not taking care of myself. And so just explain to our listeners where you were at in your health journey. Where had you gotten to? Because it's a very interesting story that I want you to tell us about while you were taking care of people. What was happening with your own health?
So I was very focused, still doing reserve. So one weekend a month, I was going up to Wilmington, North Carolina to serve, other members in the Coast Guard and making sure they're healthy, doing their checkups, making sure they have all their immunizations and, looking out for them. So I'm taking care of them. Then I'm also a husband. I'm also a father. So coming home after a 8-hour day and coming home and helping out with everything that entailed in the house. So during that time, I was not working out. I was doing just like everybody else, convenience food because so busy. So coming home and just eating what's most convenient,
Right.
and so during that time period, I would also cover a hospital on weekends. So it was my week and I went to sleep just like any other night. And it was a Tuesday night and I woke up in the middle of the night and I couldn't get back to sleep. All the muscles in my spinal cord were really tight, and I had tingling in my feet, tingling in my hands, tingling in my tongue. And I thought it was just because our bed and our pillow was wore out. We had had it for a little while because since our youngest was born, it was going on 6 years. So I chalked it up to just inflammation in my back. And so I continued to work just like any other day. I went to the office that day after only 4 hours of sleep and worked another full day, saw about 20 patients that day, came home, same routine. I would go to bed at 9 o'clock at night, and then all of a sudden I'd wake up a couple hours later with that same tightness in my spine, and I just couldn't get comfortable. I couldn't lay there. So would go downstairs, stretch, try to sleep in the recliner, try to sleep on the couch. Even one point I even blew up the mattress, the camping mattress bed, just to try to get some comfort, just so I could get sleep. Would go to work, sit in the massage chair for about an hour and let it stretch me out, still getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep at night, thinking I'm just tight, taking ibuprofen, figuring this is gonna, pass just like anything else did. But worked throughout that whole entire week, only getting 3 and 4 hours night sleep. I had to cover the weekend. So during that week, there was a couple instances where I got up and I fell. And so I just kept pushing on, just pushed it off. I'm like, this will get better. It'll be okay.
Now, mind you, as your wife, when I heard that, I was very concerned. And I mentioned to you that you may need to go to the hospital. And I'm glad you took that advice.
Yeah, well, I continue to push on though, because, I'm figuring it's just inflammations. Walking from one side of the hospital to the other side of the hospital felt like 1 to 2 miles. And then did that Saturday and then did it again Sunday and was done about midway through the day around lunchtime. And we were going to go get something to eat. Well, when I went to go get something to eat with the doctor downtown, I went to sip from my tea just like any other time and I couldn't sip through the straw. So I became very worried then because now, okay, I thought it was inflammation, but why can't I sip through the straw? So when the doctor came out, I told him what was going on. He said, smile. And when I smiled, I had facial droop. So I diagnose, strokes all the time. This wasn't acting like a stroke, but I was concerned.
Now, Brad, I want to ask you the time period. Was this just in a day, 2 days? How many days did this go on?
It was from that Tuesday until Sunday. And so we went to go get checked because one of the things, your carotid arteries in your neck, a piece of plaque breaks off from that. It can go to your brain and cause you to have a stroke, weakness down one side of the body, facial droop. So I wanted to see whether or not anything was going on with that. We got the ultrasound. And when we got the ultrasound, he looked at it and read it and said, there's no plaque in there. So I'm like, okay, I feel safe that it's not a stroke, but it could be Bell's palsy.
Oh,
If you get a virus, then part of your face can be paralyzed. And so I decided I was going to go to my primary care doctor on Monday because this is an emergency. I can get medicine that Monday and they'll give me a steroid and be able to treat this. And it'll take care of the inflammation in my back and it'll take care of the paralysis on my face. But when I went to my primary care doctor, they're like, no, we need you to get an MRI, need you to get a CT scan. And so I went to the ER and I got the CT scan, had spasms in my spine. So they gave me a muscle relaxer called Flexeril. And then they did the MRI. Everything was coming back normal. The ER doctors, everybody thought it was Bell's palsy. But neurologist came in, and thank God he came in because he saved my life.
Now, Brad, our listeners would like to know, what day did you go in to the
It
hospital?
was Monday.
On a Monday.
It
Okay.
was Monday. So symptoms started on a Tuesday, went into the hospital Monday, and the neurologist diagnosed me with Guillain-Barré. Guillain-Barré, if many people don't know what that is, you either get a virus, a stomach bug, something like that will set off your immune system and it'll overreact. And for some reason, it actually will attack the outer lining of your spinal cord. And that doesn't allow your brain and your muscles to communicate. And some of the first symptoms are you start to lose the ability to walk. Many times it goes from your legs and it goes up to your diaphragm muscle, which doesn't allow you to breathe. And it'll go, then it comes the whole ways up to your face.
So were you showing these symptoms?
Yes, I had the weakness in my legs. I was losing the ability to walk.
Wow.
Like I said, during that week, I fell a couple times, but I didn't really think anything of it. But then I wasn't able to move half of my face.
Hmm.
Clear from my lips, clear up to my forehead, I could not move my face. So it made it hard to talk. It made it hard to even eat. When you start to lose control of your own body, it's a very scary thing. And so, not knowing what was going on, began to reach out to God and ask God, what's going on? Is this just an illness that, it's going to be a health journey for me that you're going to heal me from? Or is this something to death? And so having to, have those thoughts in your minds because, of course, I'm married to you and of course we have children and wanting to be there for you and them.
Right. I was very, very shocked. I knew that you had been experiencing the symptoms, but I didn't know how dire and how critical it was going to be. And yeah, just to know that you were in the hospital and to see the state that you were in. I mean, you couldn't even walk. You had no movement in like the left side of your face to even eat. I had no idea that it was going to be as dire as it was. And it was very, very scary for me. And I'm sure it was scary for you. Is that correct?
It was going into it after praying and seeking him and then having a comfort knowing that I felt like it wasn't until death. But I didn't know what was the recovery time going to be. Was I going to even be able to recover movement in my face?
Right.
And so having to work with wonderful people and occupational therapy and physical therapy and speech therapy just to be able to try to speak again. But God is faithful. God is faithful in
Yeah.
every trial. And
Now, Brad, I have to ask, how many days were you in the hospital?
I was in the hospital from that Monday until Sunday.
Until Sunday.
I got released earlier that morning, that Sunday.
How did that feel? Was it that you felt you knew the doctors were working on your behalf, that they were there, they were trying to help you. But when was the moment that you felt like God was helping you, or you were recovering? Because in your condition, a lot of times it takes months of therapy and recovery,
Yes, it does.
and you don't just walk out of a situation like that. So just kind of tell me, what was it like? Because as your wife, I remember you coming home, walking up the stairs and giving me a big hug. I was totally shocked after seeing all that my husband had gone through. So just explain to our audience, what was that like? Did you feel God? Did you feel his presence? Did you feel like he was healing you? Was it an everyday feeling of I'm getting better? What did you tell yourself? What was that experience like?
Well, like I said, I began to talk to God. I was praying to God every day. I would read scripture on my phone, and I would also have worship music. I'd spend every morning a time of worship, thanking Him, because no matter what comes into our life, it says it rains on the just and it rains on the unjust. but he said he would never leave us nor forsake us, that he would be there until the end of the earth. So he's going to be by my side. And no matter what the situation was, that he was going to walk with me through it. And so I had confidence in that. Now, did I know that I was going to be completely healed? No, I didn't know I was going to be completely healed. I didn't know how long the journey was going to be. I didn't know if I would ever recover my full ability to have strength in my legs anymore, because my legs were weak, especially my left side. I almost fell one time when they were doing physical therapy and they threw a ball low for me to catch, and my left leg wanted to give out. And so it was a process. It was a process and trust. But during the whole time, I had peace, and it's the peace that only God can give. He gives peace beyond all understanding. Well, when I received my full healing, though, because I had had a few sessions of physical therapy and I didn't need occupational therapy anymore. And when we went to church the following Sunday, I decided I was going to leap for joy, even though my legs were weak. So I grabbed a hold of the chair in front of me and I began to leap for joy. I said, I'm going to take a victory lap because God's going to heal me. I'm like, okay, I don't even know if I'm going to fall, but I'm going to take a victory lap anyways. So I did one victory lap, the second victory lap. By the second victory lap, I was dancing before the Lord and my face returned back to normal.
Wow. Wow. That is amazing, Brad. That is so wonderful. And I know that you give glory and I know you give praise to your Savior and your Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. We are so very thankful for that. Now, we want to know that your journey, whenever you got back home and you felt like you had gotten your strength back, what were some things that went through your mind? What are some changes that you felt like needed to be made in your life to recover your strength and recover your health, so you could go back to work and just be healthier and stronger?
Well, I started with physical therapy. With the physical therapy, I need to continue to regain my strength. So, one of the things that I did was I dedicated myself to the gym at least 3 days a week, that I was going to go work out and I was going to go exercise. The other thing that going into this in my mindset, I was getting sick about every 3 months. I was eating the food everybody eats, but I just thought I ate something bad and I was getting sick, on a routine basis.
What kind of food were you eating?
We were eating mostly just like anybody else, processed
Yeah,
foods.
right.
Yeah, eating processed
Chip,
foods. Yes, chips,
those
dips, sodas, no hamburgers, hot dogs,
popcorn.
going through fast food restaurants and things like that. And so
It took a toll on your health.
it
Am
did.
I right? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it did.
I hear you.
But I didn't have an understanding of why.
Yeah.
Why are these foods bad for me? You
So it was
know,
whenever you started going to the gym that you started making these changes, these healthier changes.
Well, right prior to all of this happening, we had went to a conference down in Miami and I began to learn about a new way of practicing medicine. It's called functional medicine, and it's about getting to the root cause of issues and sicknesses. One of the things that they talk about is how our gut is our second brain.
So your journey that you were talking about making these healthy issues, these healthier choices, how did you start off with doing that?
It was taking 6 simple steps that I added to my life. So instead of eating processed foods, the first one that I recommend to anybody is that you eat fresh from the earth, that you eat fruits and vegetables. If you can get it as close to possible, like you grew it or the local farmer, we need to get back to supporting our local farmers.
That's right. Yes,
Go to these farmers markets and you're
hmm
able to get fresh fruit and veggies, and so eating fresh fruits and vegetables is the first rule that I added to my life.
Okay.
Second rule I added to my life is to add more fish to my diet. Salmon, mackerel, tuna, sardines, red snapper fish, any type of fish that is fresh, that has fins and scales and swims in the ocean or swims in fresh water. The third one was if I was going to eat beef or chicken, then it needed to be grass fed also. So it's eating straight from the earth also. And then the fourth one, to come to find out, is there's good bacteria and good viruses in our gut. And sometimes, when we get sick or when we're on antibiotics and things like that, it can destroy gut bacteria. The processed foods can destroy our gut bacteria. So you need to replenish that bacteria. And how do you do that? You eat fermented foods. I grew up as a kid, they made homemade sauerkraut. Sauerkraut is very good in probiotics and good bacteria. Kimchi is another, a vegetable that Koreans eat that is fermented cabbage. It's very good for gut bacteria. Kombucha drinks, kefir, and also live cultured yogurt. The fifth one we talked about at the beginning was exercise. And then now I've added a sixth one recently, and I do intermittent fasting. I do 5 days, and then I do 2 days of a true fast, a water fast. Not a true fast, and I'm not drinking water or food. I'm drinking water. And those are some of the six things that I added to my life. And since then, it just seems like I'm getting healthier and healthier, and I'm starting to lose the extra weight that I put on.
That is so good because, sometimes we do neglect, to take care of ourselves. I know personally, I love to eat, healthy fruits and vegetables, go to a farmer's market with you and see what we can find. See if we can find some lean meats, fresh fruits and veggies to include into our diet. As as your wife, I have seen such a dramatic improvement in your overall health. How do you feel today, Brad, since you've incorporated those things into your life? How do you feel today compared to whenever you first started, or whenever, let's say, you were eating, more of the fast food and the processed food? And since you've made these overall changes, how has your body performed, or how are you right now?
I've noticed a change in, the sharpness of my mind, being able to recall things easier. I've noticed being stronger, having more energy, not having the brain fog, not having the fatigue. After I eat, I always had acid reflux. I don't have acid reflux anymore. I used to, when we were eating, I remember, we would have conversations. Would you just please stop coughing? It's because I couldn't stop coughing. I had that bad acid reflux from the food that I was eating. My gut wasn't healthy, and it was trying to tell me. And many of us, we just push those symptoms aside, and we just like, I just have acid reflux, so I need to take some Tums. I just have acid reflux. I know need to go get some medicine, some proton pump inhibitors, and I need to take those and to stop that acid reflux. And then some other side effects too. One of the things was prior going into this, I wasn't taking blood pressure medicine. So that was a symptom. That was a symptom that my gut was not healthy and my gut needed rebalanced.
That's very good. Also going back to, you were talking about, you were also doing the military and also, working at the hospital at the same time. And would you say, because we were, at the time you were eating processed foods and fast foods and stuff like that, and you were coughing, could you say that you weren't getting the best quality rest?
And we have a mind. And if we're out of balance spiritually, we're not going to be well. If we are having anxiety, we're having depression, we're having things like that, that's going to affect our overall health. If something is going on with our bodies, yes, things that you need to do is you should focus on getting a full night's sleep. A full night's sleep is the basis and was the first step. Having 7 to 9 hours sleep per night is essential. It's essential because sleep is the time for healing. It's time for your body to heal. One of the reasons why I've added intermittent fasting now is during that healing process, I want my gut to be able to heal itself. I want my liver to be able to heal itself. I want my kidneys to be able to heal itself. So setting a time at night, like for instance, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock to be your cutoff hour, to where you stop eating. No snacks, no snacks after those times. And when you stop eating at 6 and then you don't eat until 6 o'clock the next morning, you're giving your body 12 full hours to heal itself.
I fully believe in that, Brad, because I notice how I am the next morning when I don't get the proper sleep and I don't get the proper rest. And maybe I stayed up late eating popcorn and chips. Not anymore. But even the fact of just staying up late, either, watching a show, or you get caught up on watching, something on your phone. And just the next morning, it's so hard to get through sometimes. And sometimes, instead of reaching for something that's healthy, a lot of times, for some reason, I want to grab something like I want to grab the chips, or I want to grab something salty, or I want to grab something sweet. And a lot of it is just because I think I'm tired. And it's because I didn't go to bed the night before. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about getting proper rest throughout the night? How many hours should we be looking at? Is it different for everybody, or
Science,
feel?
science is your body will tell you, but science has recommended 7 to 9 hours sleep per night in
Okay.
order to totally allow your body to completely heal, for you to completely rest. You need about 7 to 9 hours sleep to fully get into the REM sleep. That's the deep sleep, the deepest sleep where your body gets into healing mode. So that's very important. That helps you get your day started off good, because if you don't get enough rest, then you feel like you're scrambling the next day.
Yes.
So then you're anxious, and anxiousness, causes a dump of cortisol. A dump of cortisol causes you to stress eat.
Yes.
And then you're not necessarily grabbing the right things. You don't have a plan.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we have to be more aware, and take control of our health, and we want to be there for our family. We want to be there for kids. We want to be present. And for us to do that, then when are we going to make the choice? Why not start today? So, Brad, before we go, all right, if you could name 6 changes that just we can start today on our journey to better health, to better wellness, what are some of those things that we can start? What would be number one that you would say we could start today if we wanted to feel and look our best? On your journey back to health, you've experienced a lot.
Mhm.
So I feel like you would have a lot to say and you would have a lot to impart to us.
So yes, one we talked about was sleep. So that's one that's simple. 7 to 9 hours of sleep. So start there. Eating fruits and vegetables. So if it isn't live, then we shouldn't be eating it. If it's going through a huge process to get to us, well, why fruits and vegetables? Fruits and vegetables, they are anti-inflammatory. One thing we don't realize, simple terms, is you have a car, you have a combustion engine, and it's got to get rid of the waste products. Well, our body, when it's producing energy, it produces waste products. And those waste products, if they're not dealt with in a good way, then they can make us sick. The more that those waste products build up in our system. So a way to neutralize those waste products is eating the fruits and vegetables. One of the things that, I kind of laugh about this now, because I didn't realize how important our bacteria and the viruses are in our gut. We are mostly made of water, so drinking plenty of water.
Yes, that's a good one. That's
About
really good.
half your body's
Yeah.
weight, half your body's weight. So you take whatever your body's weight is and do it. Me, I should be drinking about 5 20-ounce bottles of water per day per my body weight. So making sure you're incorporating that. That's something simple. Eating the fruits and veggies, because the bacteria that's in your gut, the healthy bacteria which protects you,
Right.
needs fiber. And where we
That's
get our
so true.
where we get our fiber, that's their food source. So I say, we're water, we are a billion cells, but we are a trillion of bacteria and viruses. So it's kind of like having a little pet. Have you fed your pet today? And how you
Get my
feed it?
water in, get my
No,
rest,
get your rest,
get
get your
my
water,
rest, get my
get your
hydration.
veggies, get your fruit. So you're feeding your good gut bacteria, which
'Cause we
protect.
don't wanna stress our body.
No,
No, we wanna feed and nurture our body.
yep,
Yes.
that's right. And eating fish, okay, or high in omega 3s. High in omega 3s decrease inflammation. Well, why is it important to decrease inflammation? Fruit and veggies and fish do that. It's a Mediterranean style diet, which research has shown that people have the longest longevity. They live vital lives. There's 90-year-olds in green zones that are still doing gardening and still able to lift weights, still able to do yoga and stretch and hike. And, they're not struggling on a bunch of medicines.
Okay.
Inflammation causes 90% of the sicknesses that we deal with. That is your strokes, that is your coronary artery disease, that's type 2 diabetes, it's peripheral arterial disease. All of these illnesses come from inflammation. And so eating those first two, fruits and veggies and the fish, helps to neutralize that.
Okay, so we've got, of course, de-stressing, which is always a good thing, relaxing, taking care of our drinking water and fruits and our veggies, and we've got two more.
High fatty fish. So other one is adding meat that eats straight from the earth. That's where you get your good vitamin D from. Vitamin E from is in that meat and your proteins. And then getting the fermented vegetables, which helps to create good gut health. And then exercise. That helps to de-stress.
Yes, yep,
Helps to
exercise is
de-stress, but it's
huge.
one of the things that they've done research on that actually decreases your cell's age by 10 to 15 years.
Wow, that is amazing.
So you could be 50 years old,
Yeah.
but your cell's age could be 35.
Wow. So we literally could age ourselves backwards just by how we treat our bodies and how we treat
Right.
ourselves.
How we fuel it. And
Well, Brad, I tell you what, I'm so glad that we had you on today because you look amazing, by the way. I just want to give you kudos for how you look right now because you look so healthy, so full of life. I'm so glad that you could share this with us because a lot of us right now are starting our journey back to health, A lot of us do realize that we want to make smarter choices for ourselves, that we do want to start drinking more water. We do want to de-stress, we do want to be more calm and have healthier way of life, a healthier way of eating, and just to be there for our families,
that's right.
Th-
One
being
scripture.
here today. I want to thank you for just being a Christian man, sharing your testimony with us, and for all that you've done for our country and for those around you and how you serve your patients every day.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. We are so honored to have you here today, Brad, and we're all going to go. We're going to take these steps and we are going to live life more abundantly. All right, listeners, that's all we have today. Take care of yourself.